Captain Veltar stood on the bridge of his research ship, watching the stars through the large viewing window. His ship, the Enlightenment, had been traveling through space for 3 months. They were looking for new planets and studying dead worlds in the Kepler 442 system. It was supposed to be a quiet mission. The Zephyrians were a peaceful people. They had stopped fighting wars thousands of years ago. Now they spent their time learning about the universe and helping other species. Veltar had been a scientist before becoming a ship captain. He loved discovering new things. "Captain," called out Sensor Officer Klyesh from her station, "I'm picking up something strange." Veltar walked over to look at her screens. "What kind of strange?" "There's a big metal object floating out there." "It's not natural. Someone built it." Klyesh pointed at the data on her screen. "It's about 2 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide. Is it one of our ships?" Veltar asked. "No, sir. It doesn't match any design in our database. It's not from any species we know about." Veltar felt excited. Finding unknown technology was rare. Most space-traveling species had already met each other. "Can you tell if anyone is alive on it?" Klyesh worked at her controls for a few minutes. "The ship looks damaged. There are holes in the side and burn marks all over it. But wait." She listened to something through her headset. "It's sending out a signal." "What kind of signal?" "A distress call. Very basic radio waves, the kind species use when they first learn to travel in space." Veltar thought about this. If the ship was damaged and calling for help, they had a duty to respond. The Zephyrian way was to help others whenever possible. "Put the signal on speakers," he ordered. Strange sounds filled the bridge. It was clearly a language, but not one any of them had heard before. The voice sounded urgent and scared. "Can our computers understand it?" Veltar asked. Communications Officer Telyan worked at his station. "The translation system is trying to figure it out. Give me a few minutes." He typed commands and listened to the signal again. "I'm getting some words. It keeps saying help and emergency and something that might be coordinates." Chief Science Officer Dr. Zillith joined them on the bridge. She was tall and thin like most Zephyrians, but her eyes showed great intelligence. "Captain, this could be very important. We might be the first to meet a new species." "Or the last survivors of a species," Veltar said, thinking about the damage to the ship. "What should we do?" asked Telyan. Veltar looked at the unknown ship on the screen. Normal rules said they should report the discovery to their government and wait for orders. But the people on that ship might be dying while they waited. "How big is our cargo bay?" he asked Dr. Zillith. "Big enough to fit that ship, but just barely." "Can we bring it inside safely?" "I think so. But Captain, we don't know anything about these people. They could be dangerous." Veltar had been making decisions like this for 20 years. His gut feeling told him these people needed help. "Prepare the cargo bay. We're bringing them aboard." The crew worked for 2 hours to get ready. They had to move cargo containers and extend the bay's force field generators. Finally, they were ready. "Beginning retrieval," announced the ship's pilot. Veltar watched as their tractor beams locked onto the damaged ship. Slowly, very slowly, they pulled it into their cargo bay. When it was inside, they sealed the bay and filled it with breathable air. "The ship is secure," reported the pilot. "Any signs of life?" Veltar asked. Dr. Zillith checked her sensors. "I'm reading very faint power signatures. Some of their systems are still working. But I'm not detecting any life signs. Could they be in some kind of sleep chambers? Maybe. Or their life signs might be too different from ours for our sensors to detect." Veltar made another decision. "Prepare an exploration team. Full environmental suits and recording equipment. I want to know everything about these people." "Captain," Dr. Zillith said carefully, "what if they have diseases we can't handle? What if they're hostile? We'll be careful." But they sent a distress signal. People asking for help usually aren't planning to attack their rescuers. As the team got ready, Veltar kept looking at the alien ship on his monitors. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. While Zephyrian ships were smooth and elegant, this one looked rough and strong. It had thick armor plates and what looked like weapon mounts. Even damaged, it looked dangerous. "The exploration team is ready," Dr. Zillith reported. "Who's going?" "Myself, Security Chief Mordak, Engineer Pixel, and Medic Havron. Be very careful in there. Stay in contact at all times. If anything seems dangerous, get out immediately." The team walked into the cargo bay wearing their protective suits. The alien ship towered over them, dark and silent. They found what looked like an entrance hatch on the side. "The door mechanism is different from ours," Engineer Pixel reported over the radio. but I think I can figure it out. After a few minutes, the hatch opened with a loud hiss. Air came out of the ship, which was a good sign. It meant the ship still had atmosphere inside. "We're going in," Dr. Zilith said. Beltar watched through their helmet cameras as the team entered the alien ship. The corridors were narrow and filled with pipes and cables. Everything looked functional but rough, like it was built for strength rather than beauty. "The gravity is working," reported Security Chief Mordak. "It feels about the same as our home planet." "I'm seeing writing on the walls," Dr. Zilith said. "Strange symbols. The translation computer is working on it." They moved deeper into the ship. Every few meters they found heavy doors that could seal off sections. The walls were thick metal, much thicker than needed for a normal ship. "This is built like a fortress," Mordak observed. "Why would they need such heavy protection?" Feltar wondered aloud. "Captain." Dr. Zilith's voice came through with excitement. "I think we found their control room." The team's cameras showed a room full of screens and control panels. Unlike Zephyrian ships that used holographic displays, everything here was solid and mechanical. It looked like it was built to keep working even after taking damage. "Can you access their computers?" Veltar asked. "Pixel is working on it," Dr. Zilith replied. "Captain," Pixel said, "their technology is strange. It's actually quite advanced, but they build everything like they expect it to break. Everything has backups and backups for the backups. What does that tell us about these people? They're either very careful or they're used to things breaking in violent ways." As the team continued exploring, Veltar began to worry. What kind of species built their ships like mobile fortresses? What were they so afraid of that they needed such heavy protection? The answer to those questions would come soon enough, and it would change everything the Zephyrians thought they knew about the universe. Dr. Zilith led her team deeper into the alien ship. Each step revealed more mysteries about the people who built this strange vessel. The corridors were narrow and filled with thick pipes that carried power and air throughout the ship. Everything was built heavy and strong. "Look at these walls," Security Chief Mordak said, running his gloved hand along the metal surface. "They're 3 times thicker than they need to be." "And look at all these blast doors," Engineer Pixel added, pointing to heavy metal barriers every few meters. "Each one can seal off a section of the ship completely." Dr. Zilith was taking readings with her scanner. "The metal is an alloy I've never seen before. It's designed to absorb impacts and heat. This ship was built to survive attacks." "Attacks from what?" Mordak asked. "That's what worries me," Dr. Zilith replied. They moved into what appeared to be an engineering section. The room was huge, filled with massive machines that hummed with power. Unlike Zephyrian ships that used clean energy crystals, this ship had 3 separate power sources running at the same time. Why do they need so many power systems? Medic Havron wondered. Pixel was studying the machinery. Redundancy. If one system fails, the others keep working. If 2 systems fail, the third one can still power essential systems. He shook his head in amazement. "I've never seen anything like this. They've planned for every possible failure." Dr. Zilith found what looked like technical manuals attached to the walls. The alien writing was starting to make sense as their translation computers worked. "These are repair instructions," she said. "But look at what they're repairing." The manuals showed diagrams of the ship with different types of damage. Blast holes, fire damage, system failures caused by explosions. One diagram showed how to keep the ship running even if half of it was destroyed. "Captain," Dr. Zilith called through her radio, "these people don't just expect their ships to be damaged. They plan for it. They've designed their whole ship around the idea that it will be in battles." Captain Veltar's voice came back through the radio. "Battles with who?" "We don't know yet. But whoever these people are, they live in a very dangerous universe." The team continued exploring. They found repair shops filled with tools and spare parts. Everything was organized for quick repairs during emergencies. They saw welding equipment that could work in zero gravity, patch kits for hull breaches, and diagnostic tools that could find problems while the ship was under attack. "Look at this," Pixel said, pointing to a wall chart. It showed the entire ship divided into sections, with different colors marking priority areas. "They've planned exactly which parts of the ship to save first if everything starts failing." Mordak found something even more disturbing. "These aren't just repair stations," he said. "Look at these tools. Some of them are designed to quickly disable ship systems." "Why would they want to disable their own ship?" Havron asked. "Maybe to prevent enemies from capturing it," Dr. Zilith suggested. The thought made her feel cold. They moved into another section and found something that shocked them all. It was a room full of spacesuits, but not normal ones. These suits were thick and armored with built-in weapons and life support systems that could work for days. "These aren't spacesuits," Mordak said, his voice tense. "These are battle armor." Each suit had a helmet with advanced displays, communication systems, and what looked like targeting computers. The arms had built-in tools that could cut through metal or weld repairs. But they also had devices that were clearly weapons. They expect to fight battles inside their own ships, Dr. Zalith realized. That's why they have all those blast doors and thick walls. They're not just protecting against outside attacks. They're prepared for fighting in the corridors. The team found personal lockers near the suits. Inside were more surprises. Each crew member had their own repair tools, emergency medical supplies, and what could only be described as personal weapons. Small devices designed to stop attackers, medical injectors that could keep someone fighting even when injured, and communication equipment that worked independently of the ship's main systems. "Every single crew member is a warrior," Mordak observed. "Even their engineers and medical staff are armed and ready to fight." They explored the ship's life support systems next. Here again, they found the same pattern of excessive redundancy and battle preparation. The air recycling systems had multiple backups. The water purification could work even if contaminated by battle damage. The food storage was designed to last for years, even if most of the ship was destroyed. "They're not just traveling through space," Dr. Zilith said. "They're living in it like it's a war zone." Pixel made another disturbing discovery in the ship's computer systems. "Their navigation database is huge," he reported. "They've mapped hundreds of star systems in detail. But look at how they organize the information. The alien database divided every system into categories: resources, threats, strategic value, and defensive capabilities. They had detailed plans for approaching each system, including multiple attack routes and escape plans. They're not explorers," Dr. Zilith realized. "They're conquerors. Or at least they think like conquerors." The most shocking discovery came when they found the ship's damage reports. The computer had detailed records of every battle the ship had been in. There were dozens of them. Fights against something called hive ships, battles to control space stations, and conflicts over planets with resources. "Captain," Dr. Zilith called, "we need to see more of this ship. These people have been fighting a war, and it's been going on for a long time." "How long?" Veltar asked. Pixel translated more of the computer records. "According to their logs, this ship has been in active combat for over 15 years. And it's not the only one. They mention other ships, other fleets, other battles happening at the same time." The team spent another hour documenting everything they found. Each discovery painted a clearer picture of the aliens who built this ship. They were people who lived for war, who designed everything around conflict, who expected to fight and die among the stars. "We need to find their crew quarters," Dr. Zilith said. "I want to understand what kind of people these are." "Are you sure that's safe?" Havron asked. "What if some of them are still alive but in some kind of suspended animation?" "We have to know," Dr. Zilith replied. "If these people are still alive somewhere, we need to understand them before we try to help them." As they moved toward the crew sections of the ship, none of them could shake the feeling that they were walking through the remains of a civilization built entirely around war. The question that frightened them most was simple. If these people were so good at fighting, what had happened to them? What kind of enemy could damage a ship this heavily armored and well-defended? The answers they would find in the crew quarters would be even more disturbing than the technology they had discovered so far. Dr. Zilith and her team had been exploring the alien ship for 4 hours when they found something that made them all stop in horror. They had discovered what their translation computers called the armory. The door to this section was different from all the others. It was thicker, with multiple locks and warning signs in the alien language. When Pixel finally got it open, they found themselves staring into a room that challenged everything they believed about civilized behavior. "By the stars," Mordak whispered. "What is all this?" The armory was enormous, taking up an entire deck of the ship. Row after row of weapons lined the walls. Not small personal weapons like they had found in the crew quarters, but massive devices designed for destruction on a scale the Zephyrians had never imagined. Dr. Zilith approached the nearest weapon mount carefully. Her scanner told her it was some kind of energy projector, but far more powerful than anything in their database. This single weapon could destroy one of our research stations, she said, her voice shaking. Captain, she called through her radio. You need to see this. We've found their weapons storage, and it's horrible. Captain Veltar's voice came back immediately. What do you mean, horrible? They have enough firepower in here to destroy multiple planets. The team moved deeper into the armory. They found missiles the size of small spacecraft, each one marked with symbols that their computers translated as planetary, bombardment, and deep penetration. The warheads on these missiles contained enough explosive power to level entire cities. Look at this, Pixel said, pointing to a control panel. These aren't just random weapons. They have different types for different targets. Ship killers, planet crackers, and something called sterilization rounds. What does sterilization mean? Havron asked, though her voice suggested she was afraid to know. Pixel worked at the controls, trying to understand the alien systems. According to their technical manuals, sterilization rounds are designed to make planets uninhabitable. They destroy all life but leave the planet's resources intact. Dr. Zillith felt sick. The Zephyrians had given up weapons thousands of years ago, when they realized that violence only created more violence. They had learned to solve problems through communication and cooperation. But these aliens had created weapons designed to kill entire worlds. There's more, Mordak said from across the room. He was standing next to a series of large containers marked with radiation warnings. I think these are nuclear weapons. Lots of them. The team gathered around the nuclear storage area. The containers held dozens of warheads, each one powerful enough to destroy a large city. But what shocked them most was how casually they were stored. These weren't special emergency weapons kept locked away for desperate times. They were standard equipment, ready to be loaded onto missiles at any time. How many ships like this do they have? Dr. Zillith wondered aloud. Pixel was accessing more of the ship's computer records. According to their fleet database, this is just one ship in something called the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. There are dozens of similar ships in this fleet alone. And how many fleets do they have? I'm seeing references to at least 12 different fleets. Some are larger than this one. The numbers were staggering. If this one damaged ship carried enough weapons to sterilize multiple worlds, and there were hundreds of similar ships, then these aliens had the power to destroy entire star systems. Dr. Zillith found something even more disturbing in a sealed section of the armory. The area was marked with warnings in multiple languages, including several that their computers couldn't translate. Inside, she found containers that made her radiation detector go crazy. Antimatter, she breathed. They're storing antimatter weapons. Antimatter was the most dangerous substance in the universe. When it touched normal matter, both were converted into pure energy. The explosion was far more powerful than any nuclear weapon. Most civilized species had outlawed antimatter weapons because they were too dangerous to control. How much antimatter? Veltar asked through the radio. Dr. Zillith checked her readings. Enough to destroy a moon. Maybe a small planet. The team found technical manuals that explained how the antimatter weapons were used. They weren't just for destroying enemy ships. They were designed to eliminate entire space stations, asteroid mining facilities, and orbital defense platforms. The aliens had created weapons that could erase any target completely. Look at this tactical guide, Pixel said, reading from a computer screen. They have standard procedures for planetary bombardment, step-by-step instructions for destroying different types of worlds. The guide was detailed and methodical. It explained how to destroy water worlds, desert planets, gas giants, and even artificial habitats. Each type of target had specific weapons recommendations and attack patterns to ensure complete destruction. They've turned destroying planets into a science, Mordak said, his voice filled with disgust. But the most frightening discovery was yet to come. Dr. Zillith found a section of the armory devoted to what the aliens called experimental weapons. These devices were so advanced that even her scanners couldn't fully understand how they worked. One weapon seemed to manipulate gravity, creating crushing forces that could collapse structures from the inside. Another appeared to disrupt the bonds between atoms, causing matter to simply fall apart. A third device generated some kind of energy field that the manual claimed could eliminate biological functions while preserving infrastructure. They're not just trying to win wars, Dr. Zillith realized. They're trying to find better ways to kill people. The team spent another hour cataloging the weapons they found. Energy cannons that could melt through any known armor, kinetic bombardment systems that dropped metal rods from orbit to destroy targets on planetary surfaces, chemical weapons designed to contaminate entire continents, biological weapons that could target specific species while leaving others unharmed. "Captain," Dr. Zillith called, "we need to talk about what we do with this information." "What do you mean?" "These people aren't just warriors. They're monsters. They've created weapons that could destroy our entire civilization, and they seem to use them regularly." Through her helmet cameras, Captain Veltar could see the horror on his crew's faces. They had discovered a species that lived for destruction, that had turned killing into an art form. "Are there any defensive systems?" he asked. "Anything that suggests they protect things instead of just destroying them?" Pixel checked the ship's defensive database. "They have shields and armor, but even their defensive systems are designed around offensive thinking. Their shield generators can be overloaded to create electromagnetic pulses that disable enemy ships. Their armor plating can be ejected as projectile weapons. Even their defenses are attacks," Mordak observed. Dr. Zillith made one final check of the armory's inventory systems. What she found made her blood run cold. "Captain, according to these records, this ship was carrying only a partial weapons load when it was damaged. What does that mean?" "It means they have even more weapons than what we're seeing here. This isn't their full capability." As the team prepared to leave the armory, they all shared the same terrible thought. If this was what one partially armed ship could do, what would happen if these aliens ever found the peaceful Zephyrian worlds? Their beautiful cities, their research stations, their colonies full of families and children, all of it could be destroyed in minutes by weapons like these. The question that haunted them as they sealed the armory door was simple. What kind of universe created people like this? And more importantly, were there more of them out there looking for new worlds to conquer? Scholar Nixara had joined the exploration team when they decided to examine the crew quarters. As the ship's anthropologist, she was excited to learn about a new species. But what she found in the personal living spaces of the alien ship made her question everything she thought she knew about intelligent life. The crew quarters were divided into small rooms, each one belonging to a different person. Unlike Zephyrian ships where crew members shared common spaces and worked together peacefully, these aliens seemed to live like soldiers in a barracks. "Look at how they organize their personal space," Nixara said, examining the first room they entered. Everything was secured and locked down. Personal items were strapped to walls or locked in metal containers. "They expect their living spaces to be thrown around violently." Dr. Zillith checked her scanner. "The walls between rooms are reinforced. Even their bedrooms are built like bunkers. Each room contained the same basic items: a narrow bed, a small desk, storage containers, and what appeared to be a personal weapons locker. But it was the personal items that revealed the true horror of these people's lives. Nixara found images displayed on the walls of the first room. They showed groups of the aliens in different settings, but every image had something to do with warfare. Pictures of the ship's crew standing next to their weapons, photos of destroyed enemy vessels, group shots of the crew celebrating what looked like military victories. "Captain," Nixara called through her radio, "these people document their battles like we document scientific discoveries." In one image, she could see the aliens themselves for the first time. They looked somewhat similar to Zephyrians, but shorter and more muscular. Their faces showed determination and aggression that Nixara had never seen in any intelligent species. Even in their relaxed moments, they looked ready to fight. "What do they look like?" Captain Veltar asked. "Strong, dangerous, and proud of it," Nixara replied. She found more personal items in the desk drawers. There were letters written in the alien language, which their computers were slowly learning to translate. The letters were from family members back home, but even these personal messages were filled with references to military service and combat. One letter that the computer translated read, "My son, we are proud that you destroyed 3 enemy ships in the Battle of Kepler Prime. Your sister has joined the Naval Academy and hopes to serve on a destroyer like you. The war continues, but we know you will bring honor to our family." "Their families are proud of them for killing people," Nixara said, horrified. Another letter was from a romantic partner. "I miss you, but I understand that duty comes first. The news reports say your fleet won a great victory at the Hive outpost. I can't wait to hear your stories when you come home." Dr. Zillith was examining another crew quarter. "I'm finding the same things here," Military awards, battle trophies, weapons maintenance manuals, even their personal reading material is about warfare and tactics. The team moved through more crew quarters and the pattern continued. Every person on this ship lived for war. Their personal possessions, their entertainment, their correspondence with family, everything revolved around conflict and destruction. But it was in the ship's common areas that Nixara made the most disturbing discoveries. The aliens had recreational facilities, but these too were focused on combat. Training rooms filled with fighting equipment. Simulation chambers where crew members could practice battle scenarios. Even their games were about conquest and destruction. "Look at this," Pixel said, activating what appeared to be an entertainment system. The screen showed images of strategic battles, weapon demonstrations, and historical conflicts. Their entertainment is about war. Nixara found a library of digital books and media. The translation computers worked overtime to understand the content. There were technical manuals about weapons and tactics, but also fiction stories about heroic warriors, historical accounts of famous battles, and even children's books that glorified military service. "This is a children's story," Nixara said, reading from the computer translation. "It's about a young alien who dreams of becoming a starship captain so he can fight the enemies of his people. The hero of the story destroys enemy planets and is celebrated as a hero. They teach their children that destroying worlds is heroic?" Dr. Zelith asked. "It appears so." The team found video recordings that the crew had made during their off-duty time. These should have shown the aliens relaxing and enjoying themselves. Instead, they showed crew members practicing combat techniques, discussing battle strategies, and sharing stories about previous fights. In one video, several crew members were gathered around a table, drinking something and laughing, but they were laughing about an enemy ship they had destroyed, joking about how quickly the enemy crew had died when their ship's hull was breached. "They find killing funny," Mordak said, his voice filled with disgust. Nixara discovered personal journals that some crew members had kept. These private writings should have revealed the aliens' true feelings about their lives. Instead, they showed people who genuinely enjoyed warfare and destruction. One journal entry read, "Today we engaged a hive cruiser near the asteroid belt. The battle lasted 3 hours, but we finally broke through their shields and destroyed their engine core. The explosion was beautiful. I can't wait for the next engagement." Another entry was even more disturbing. "Command says we might get to bombard a hive colony world next month. I hope I get assigned to the targeting team. There's something satisfying about watching enemy cities burn from orbit." These aren't reluctant warriors, Nixara realized. They enjoy what they do. The personal effects revealed other disturbing aspects of alien culture. They collected trophies from defeated enemies, pieces of destroyed ships, weapons taken from enemy soldiers, even personal items taken from conquered worlds. These trophies were displayed with pride in their personal quarters. Dr. Zillith found religious or spiritual items in some of the quarters. But even their beliefs seemed to revolve around conflict. Their gods were warriors, their prayers asked for victory in battle, and their sacred symbols looked like weapons. "Their entire culture is built around war," Nixara said. "From childhood to old age, from family relationships to religious beliefs, everything in their society is about fighting and conquest." The team found evidence that this wasn't a recent development. Historical documents and family heirlooms showed that these people had been warriors for thousands of years. Generation after generation had lived for battle, had raised their children to be soldiers, had built their entire civilization around the idea that life was conflict. "How is this possible?" Havron asked. "How can an entire species develop this way?" Nixara had studied many different cultures, but she had never seen anything like this. Maybe they evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill them. Maybe they learned early that only the strongest survive, and they never learned any other way to live. The personal items also revealed something else disturbing. These aliens weren't just fighting one enemy. The trophies and battle records showed conflicts with many different species. They seemed to view the entire universe as their enemy, something to be conquered and controlled. They don't just fight to defend themselves, Nixara realized. They fight because fighting is what they are. As the team finished examining the crew quarters, they all felt a deep sadness. These aliens weren't evil monsters. They were people with families, relationships, hopes, and dreams. But their entire culture had developed around the idea that the only way to survive was to destroy others. Captain, Nixara called. We need to understand their history. How did a species like this develop? And more importantly, are they still out there somewhere looking for new enemies to fight? The questions were disturbing, but they needed answers. If these people were still alive somewhere in the galaxy, then every peaceful species was in danger. The universe they thought was safe and friendly might actually be full of predators looking for new prey. Engineer Pixel had been working on the alien ship's main computer system for hours. Breaking through their security was challenging, but not impossible. When he finally accessed their central database, what he found made him call for Captain Veltar immediately. "Captain, you need to hear this," Pixel said through his radio. "I've broken into their main computer system, and the information here is overwhelming." Captain Veltar's voice came back tense with worry. "What kind of information?" "Everything. Ship logs, fleet communications, strategic databases, battle reports. Captain, these people have been fighting a massive war for over 30 years. The translation computers worked quickly to convert the alien language into something the Zephyrians could understand. As the data streamed across his screens, Pixel realized he was looking at the records of a conflict that dwarfed anything in known history. "The ship's name is USS Retribution," Pixel reported. "It's part of something called the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet under the command of Admiral Sarah Chen." Dr. Zillith and the rest of the team gathered around Pixel's portable computer station. The data was organized in military format, with clear hierarchies and detailed operational records. "How many ships are in this fleet?" Dr. Zillith asked. Pixel scrolled through the fleet roster. 47 combat vessels, 12 support ships, and 6 mobile repair stations. "And this is just one fleet. You said there were more fleets? At least 15 that I can find so far. Some are larger than this one." Captain Veltar's voice came through the radio, strained with disbelief. "Are you telling me these aliens have over 1,000 warships?" "More than that, Captain. This database shows references to home fleet defenses, colonial protection squadrons, and something called the Reserve Command. We might be looking at several thousand ships." The ship's logs told the story of the USS Retribution's last mission. They had been part of a massive assault on something called the Hive Confederation's main supply depot. The battle had lasted for 6 days and involved over 200 ships from multiple human fleets. "Listen to this," Pixel said, reading from the ship's captain's log. "Day 4 of the assault on Hive Station Alpha 7. We've lost 12 ships, but the enemy has lost 31. The Retribution took heavy damage when we rammed the station's defensive grid, but the sacrifice opened a breach for the assault ships. Victory is within reach. They deliberately crashed their ship into enemy defenses?" Mordek asked. "It gets worse," Pixel continued reading. Day 6. Station Alpha 7 is secured. Total enemy casualties estimated at 4 million. Our losses, 28 ships and their crews. Admiral Chen says the sacrifice was worth it. The Hive supply lines are broken. The casual way the aliens discussed massive casualties was disturbing. 4 million deaths were mentioned as simply a successful result. The loss of 28 ships and their crews was described as an acceptable sacrifice. Dr. Zillith studied the tactical reports. "They're not just fighting battles. They're fighting a war of extermination." The computer records showed the scope of the conflict. The humans were fighting against something called the Hive Confederation, across dozens of star systems. Both sides had been engaged in total warfare for decades with no apparent attempt at peace negotiations. "What are they fighting about?" Scholar Nixara asked through the radio. Pixel searched through the strategic databases. According to their intelligence reports, the Hive Confederation is a collective consciousness species. They assimilate other species and convert their worlds into hive nodes. So they're fighting to defend themselves? Not exactly. Look at this. Pixel displayed a strategic planning document. This is a human plan for total elimination of hive presence in the galaxy. They're not just defending their territory. They're trying to wipe out the entire enemy species. The ship's logs contained detailed descriptions of human battle tactics that shocked the Zephyrian team. The humans used their ships as weapons, ramming enemy vessels when their guns ran out of ammunition. They had something called dead man switches that would detonate their ship's reactors if they were about to be captured. "Listen to this tactical report," Pixel said. "When facing superior enemy numbers, human doctrine recommends the scorched space strategy. Destroy all resources in the combat zone, including your own, to deny them to the enemy. They destroy their own supplies rather than let enemies have them. It's worse than that. They destroy entire star systems if they think the enemy might use them strategically. Dr. Zeleth was reading medical reports from the ship's database. Their casualty rates are incredible. This ship alone has lost over 60% of its original crew during its service period. How do they keep functioning with such losses? They replace the dead and keep fighting. Look at these personnel records. Some crew members are on their third or fourth ship assignment because their previous vessels were destroyed. The database contained strategic assessments of the war's progress. The humans and the Hive Confederation had been locked in a stalemate for years, with neither side able to achieve decisive victory. Both civilizations had devoted their entire resources to the conflict. "Captain," Pixel called, "I'm finding something else disturbing. The humans have contingency plans for expanding the war." "What do you mean?" "They've identified several neutral species that they consider potential threats, including—" Pixel's voice trailed off as he read the data. "Including what?" "Including us, Captain. They have a file on the Zephyrian Republic." The silence on the radio was deafening. Dr. Zeleth felt her blood turn cold. "What kind of file?" Pixel read from the intelligence assessment. "Zephyrian Republic. Pacifist democracy, advanced technology, minimal military capability. Threat level, low to moderate. Potential for alliance, unlikely, due to philosophical differences. Recommended action if hostile. Rapid occupation of key systems before they can mobilize allies." "They're planning to attack us?" Captain Veltar asked. "Not immediately, but they've analyzed our defenses and calculated how to defeat us if necessary." The team discovered that the humans had similar assessments for dozens of other species. They had studied every known civilization in their part of the galaxy, looking for potential enemies, allies, or resources to exploit. They think everyone is a potential enemy, Dr. Zeleth realized. They can't imagine any other way to relate to other species except through conflict. The ship's logs also revealed the devastating cost of the humans' way of life. Their home worlds were stripped of resources to support the war effort. Their entire population lived under military discipline. Children were trained for combat from an early age. Their science and technology were focused entirely on developing better weapons. "Look at these production reports," Pixel said. "They're building new warships faster than they're losing them. Their entire civilization is a war machine." But perhaps the most disturbing discovery was in the ship's communication logs. The USS Retribution had been in contact with human command right up until the moment it was severely damaged. The humans knew exactly where their ship was and what had happened to it. "Captain," Pixel said, his voice filled with dread, "the ship's emergency beacon isn't just calling for help." "What do you mean?" "It's been transmitting our location back to the human fleet. They know we're here." The realization hit everyone at the same time. By rescuing the human ship, they had revealed themselves to a species that viewed everyone as potential enemies. The humans now knew that the Zephyrians existed, where they were, and that they had captured one of their vessels. "How long have we been transmitting?" Captain Veltar asked. Pixel checked the beacon logs. 6 hours. "The signal has enough range to reach human space." Dr. Zeleth felt sick. They had tried to help, and instead they had potentially doomed their entire civilization. The humans were already analyzing Zephyrian technology, learning about their capabilities and probably planning their response. "Captain, we need to get out of here," she said. "If the humans are coming, we don't want to be here when they arrive." But as they prepared to leave the ship, Pixel made one final discovery that filled them all with terror. In the navigation computer, he found recent course plots showing human fleet movements toward their current position. "Captain," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "according to these projections, we have company coming. Multiple ships moving fast, and they'll be here in less than 12 hours.